All right, hello, leadership fellows. Welcome to my TED Talk. I guess that's what we're calling it. I'm not really positive, but today I will be discussing some of the core mechanics that hold ethics together. Really, I'll be looking at three specific elements. Now, there's a lot of different views, there's a lot of different standpoints on what really makes ethics, what really makes a person take some things into consideration and other people, well, other things. So, that was an awful explanation. I'm very sorry. But, anyways, we'll be looking at first, deontology, second, consequentialism, and third, virtue ethics. So, really, through these three theories of ethics, you can compile all sorts of different um, standpoints. For example, under consequentialism ethics, you can have utilitarianism. A lot of people don't realize that, but pretty much every subgenre of ethics can be subpointed underneath these three basic ones. So first, let's look at deontology. So this comes from the Greek word deon, which means rule, law, or obligation. So deontological ethics is primarily concerned with the law, the rules. They want to follow them to a T. It's a divine command theory, I guess. They receive what to do. They hear the rule, they hear the law, and then they follow it. And no, it's pretty easy. It's pretty basic. That's it. They just follow the law because that's what it says. They don't question it. Next up, we have utilitarianism. No, I don't. Consequentialism, utilitarianism as a form, and this is basically they determine the right and wrong based on the best results. So they kind of weigh the pros and cons, I suppose, if you will. They look at the future, what may happen. They try to guess, I guess, and then through that, they develop a sense of what to do. They're not really concerned with the action itself, but by what it produces. And then lastly, we have virtue ethics. This one is probably the most tricky to explain, really. It's not concerned with the action. No, it is. It's concerned with the action. It's not concerned with the results. Kind of, but not really. Because, see, here's the thing. They're concerned with what kind of person they're becoming. They're concerned with their morality. So they're concerned with the action itself because if it's bad, then it's bad, and that doesn't speak well for their character. But they're also concerned with the long-term effects on their self. It's concerned with their personhood. For example, they simply wouldn't steal something even if they could get away with it because that would teach them to steal more and more, and that would go against their morality. It would shape the person who they were becoming to be something bad. So let's look at a very realistic example of how we might be able to apply these different three elements. So first, for the scenario, we've all been there before, don't lie. I've been there, you've been there. We're running late to class. You just woke up a little bit too late. It was a little bit hard getting out of bed. And because of that, when you got to campus, all the spots were taken. Classic, I know. So you have two options. First, you can either park across campus in the old tennis courts, but if you do that, you'll definitely be late for class. Or you can park in a faculty parking spot. No. So, let's look at this through the three different stand viewpoints. I really need a code word for these, I'm jumping around it. I guess you could say, the three branches of ethics. That's nice, that's classy, I'll keep that. So the first branch of ethics, deontology, it wouldn't cross their mind to even park in the faculty's parking spot because they're not supposed to. It's a rule. It's a law. You cannot park in the faculty's parking spot unless you're faculty. So it wouldn't even really cross their mind. They wouldn't do it straight up. Nope. But then again, they probably wouldn't be late for class in the first place because, you know, it's a law. It's a rule to be on class at time. So this would probably be like a one-time weird scenario, I guess. But the point is, they wouldn't park in the parking spot that's for faculty because that would be violating the rules. Next up, let's look at consequentialism. So they would weigh the pros and cons of each one. So first they'd be like, if I parked in the faculty parking spot, then perhaps I'd be on time for class, and I wouldn't have to walk all the way across campus. Ooh, fancy that. But then they would also have to factor in what happens if they got caught. What if Campo came by? Then they might get a ticket or get towed. So they'd have to think about that too. It's a more complex system than just right or wrong. They're literally weighing the pros and cons of every possible scenario. And from that, they do what they believe will produce the best results for themselves. Or it could be for other people, but that's a different thing. We're not going into that. And then lastly, let's look at virtue ethics. Now, again, there's no right or wrong answer per se because these are simply the three main branches and everybody falls under them in some regard. However, from these three basic like stems, people can have obviously other opinions that factor into. It's not this simple. I wish it was, but it's not. So for virtue ethics, they probably would not be parking in the spot, I believe, simply because what would that say about their personhood? What would that say about their morals? Sure, they might get to class on time, but they should have left earlier. They would factor that in. They'd probably beat themselves up a little bit for that because that's not the person they want to be. But they wouldn't park in the spot because it's bad. That's bad. You can't be stealing their spots. They wouldn't do it because they would think that, hey, this is wrong. They'd have a sense of virtue, I guess. They wouldn't want to be shaped in the long term into the kind of person who just violates rules to get small gains in life. So I don't think they would park there. Instead, they'd probably be late the one time to class, and they would fix that obviously next time. But I don't think they would violate the rules for a short game because that would ultimately damage their long-term morality. So hopefully this helped a little bit. It kind of helps me too, I guess, because I'm kind of like trying to flatten all these. But yeah, and the scope of leadership, I suppose this is an important thing because first you need to find out where you lie underneath this as the leader. But then also you need to look at it in terms of everybody judges their actions based on one of these criteria more or less so. Obviously there's subcategories, there's other things that affect it, but when somebody does what you might see as a stupid action, you can't jump all over them and yell at them for that, but instead you could try to break down their ethics, and then from that, if you believe they were still in the wrong, then you can adjust them. You can tell them that you don't think that they're really following your creed or ethos, if you will, as whatever organization you're trying to lead. But ultimately, if a large group of people continue to do that, you might need to actually reevaluate your organization's key morals, their key ethics, kind of your creed, I guess, because ultimately everybody should be following that regardless of whatever branch they fall under. If you're not following that creed that you have as an organization, then what's your purpose? What are you doing? So ethics are hard. Just do your best, man or female lady. I'm gonna stop now. Ah.